Forgotten by Design, Part 20A, Into the Void. The Trexel Void was an expanse of space that remained largely unexplored by the Federation. Described as an astral maze, its unpredictable gravitational anomalies, ion storms, and shifting spatial corridors made it a navigator's worst nightmare. But hidden deep within this treacherous region was the maximum security prison that held Raxiel. Lansing and Lenara stood side by side on the bridge of their ship, watching as the crew skillfully navigated the perilous path. The captain, a seasoned Savorian named Yarnak, barked orders, making sure every reading and every maneuver was precise. "We've been granted special access," Lenara whispered to Lansing, not taking her eyes off the void ahead. "But that doesn't make this journey any less dangerous." Lansing nodded, swallowing hard. The stars outside seemed to dance, twist, and disappear, replaced by patches of utter darkness or radiant light. It was disorienting, and he clutched the railing to steady himself. After what felt like hours, the ship's alarms quieted, and the turbulent void outside settled into a calmer state. Emerging from the chaos was a colossal structure, bathed in a crimson light. It was the prison, anchored firmly in place by gargantuan chains that tethered it to nearby asteroids. The ship docked, and Lenara and Lansing were quickly ushered into the prison's airlock. The guards, tall and armored, gave them a cursory glance before leading them through winding corridors. Following the guards, they traversed a labyrinth of dimly lit corridors. The walls seemed to seep moisture, their dampness emphasized by the dim lighting. In the distance, sporadic whispers and faint cries could be heard, but they became increasingly muffled as the group descended deeper into the heart of the prison. When they finally reached Raxiel's cell, the guards remained outside, their imposing figures barring the entrance as Lenara and Lansing stepped in. Raxiel, a surprisingly sharp-looking man despite his years, sat at the far end. The weight of 6 decades of incarceration had weathered him, but his intellect remained razor-sharp. His eyes, which had seen so much, darted between the two visitors, analyzing them with piercing precision. "An attack, I presume?" Raxiel's voice dripped with a mix of cynicism and genuine curiosity. "Has it got something to do with genetic manipulation, perhaps?" Lenara, always the diplomat, responded with careful vagueness. "There's been a bombing. We thought perhaps you'd have an interest in assisting." But Raxiel seemed more intrigued by Lansing than the bombing. He leaned forward slightly. "And who's this? I don't recognize his species." Quick on her feet, Lenara interjected, "He's an Orion." Raxiel's brows furrowed, his voice dripping with intrigue. "I've heard about Orions, not many of them around." Shifting the attention back to their mission, Lenara steered the conversation forward. "Look, Raxiel, if you help us, we can negotiate for better living conditions for you here." Raxiel's laugh was hollow, a sound echoing from decades of solitude. "The only way I'll even consider helping is if you get me out of this hellhole." "That's not an option," Lenara replied firmly. The aged prisoner leaned back, a pensive look crossing his features. "What makes you think this is connected to my old cause?" Lenara took a deep breath before replying. "The bomb signature is almost identical to the ones used in your time, and there's a high likelihood of DNA manipulation being involved." Raxiel looked thoughtful for a moment. "I've aged, Lenara. 6 decades in this place have doused the fires of my youthful fanaticism. How about a deal? Get me out of this cage for a few weeks and I'll help you find what you're after." Lenara's eyes narrowed slightly as she weighed her options. "I might be able to pull some strings, but I need a show of faith from you. A guarantee." Raxiel chuckled. "I've been out of the game for quite a while, but I remember things. The old contacts, the old ways. You'd be surprised how little has changed." Lansing, who had been silent, finally intervened. "That's all well and good, but we need something concrete. Some gesture of goodwill to present to the higher-ups. Something that might convince them you're worth the risk." The old extremist's eyes sparkled with a mischievous glint. "There's an old drop location unused for decades." He began detailing a place in a rundown part of the Federation homeworld. "At a specific transport hub, there's a numbered box. Within it, you'll discover my last holopad. It holds data from my final mission before my retirement. Naturally, it's bio-locked to me. If you can verify its contents, I think you'll find that's a substantial act of trust on my part. Lenara nodded, trying not to betray her excitement. If everything aligns, I'll see to it that you get a temporary break from this place. Raxiel smirked, a hint of his former rebellious self shining through. Well then, better let me pack my weekend bag, huh? With that, Lenara and Lansing knew they had a lead, possibly a gold mine of intelligence. If the holopad contained the details of Raxiel's last mission, it might just provide the breakthrough they needed. The duo retraced their steps, weaving their way through the prison's damp, echoing halls, their thoughts consumed by the mission ahead. The promise of uncovering long-buried secrets propelled them forward, the weight of the prison gradually lifting with each step they took towards their ship. As the chapter drew to a close, the airlock sealed behind them with a hiss, locking away the mysteries of the prison and opening the door to a new set of challenges.